Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 7 of the anime series, Brynhildr in the Darkness. This was quite the interesting episode in that we're picking up right where we left off, with Ryota having his meeting with Kogoro, this scientist, and this guy doesn't cut corners. He basically lays it out on the table that unless these pills are a certain specific kind of makeup, they're pretty much not going to be able to do anything with them. They're hoping they're crystalline in format, but if they're not, this could take 6 months at minimum to create more of them, and basically that really limits a good that Ryota's hoping to be able to do for these girls, as we find when, he finally catches up with Kogoro again later, that in fact these aren't crystalline pills, and you basically have Kuroha saying she wants that to happen anyway, because even if they can't make these pills for this particular group of girls, there's got to be, pills around for the other witches down the line that could potentially escape the lab. We've already seen several have gotten killed. They basically had the AA class witch Kikako who came around looking for that girl Shino, and she came back with 3 Hana's that she managed to gather from witches she slaughtered, and she also reported another witch in the midst, which was probably Kuroha, and this is going to bring down the entire lab on them. Ichijiko is basically being instructed by his leaders, or whatever this conglomerate is, to send somebody in stronger, and they have some kind of plans that are coming to fruition that all relates back to these alien ruins as they're being referred to. You basically have Kotori talking about this in answer to Ryota's question, and it's a very ominous thing that's overhanging these girls. Now, amidst all of this, we have the comical aspects of, basically Ryota is trying to school Kuroha on what exactly karaoke is, because she was asked by her classmates, will you come singing with us? She thinks it's pronounced like maramuke or something. Absolutely hilarious. And of course later he goes to kind of check up on her after having his own sort of day out, a date, if you will, with Kazumi, who basically, we're finding that she has as much of a crush on Ryota as he has on Kuroha, which we're seeing evidence of through her being playfully antagonistic. She's in sort of denial about it, whereas Kuroha does also have feelings for Ryota, but she's not understanding them, and this is probably down to her memory loss and just not being able to function with these kinds of emotions because she hasn't learned to really, manage them. But as much fun as Kazumi's day out with Ryota, is apparently supposed to be, they're actually there to find a computer part that is going to help her better navigate the net and everything, as we know that's her power. But she also wants to visit like a maid restaurant, and she ends up choosing a word that gets written on her food that means perseverance, which Ryota picks up on, and this relates to a wish that she actually shares she has with the other girls when Ryota isn't around. And of course you have Kana making fun of her, or if you have a wish, it's got to be something to do with sex, right? You're always horny and everything like that. But of course we know she's overcompensating for a lot of things by acting that way. And I think we're getting hints on what exactly that's all about in this episode, when you basically have Ryota and Kazumi by themselves in Akibahara, where they've gotten this computer part and everything, and he's got that sort of mobile device, whatever it is, that came from the lab. He was given this by Kuroha, and he wants to try to figure out what exactly, it's going to lead them to. So he figures he's got to go to a mass-populated place in order to turn it on, in case they can scan it and figure out where their position is and try to hunt them down. He can actually blend into the crowd, and they can, stay hidden and all that kind of stuff. And when he turns this thing on, it does have a map, but it also contains a message written in German, which pointedly goes right to Kazumi. She immediately knows what it says, and it says, it's time to kill the witches if you want to find out the truth. And so this is quite an interesting dynamic that's unfolding between these characters. Yes, it is kind of turning into a harem to a point, but it's actually acceptable for me, who doesn't really get into harems all that much, because it's such a fascinating story going on. You basically have Kuroha, who, has feelings for Ryota, but she doesn't understand them. She hasn't really lived enough to really experience these things to understand what they all mean. As Ryota points out when he goes checking up on her at the karaoke place, he tells her, oh, I'm not here for you. I'm just kind of, coming to sing by myself. And she really seems heartbroken by that. She takes it at face value, what he says. So there's an element of her not even being able to respond to people in the right sort of way. And then you have Kazumi, who is over the top with her antagonistic qualities, with her overcompensating the sexual innuendos, because she also has sort of a crush on Ryota. You have Kana, who's kind of in the middle, like laughing it up and everything like that. Kotori, who is really still the mystery character. She's letting spill a lot of these intriguing sort of facts and rumors about the lab and everything like that. She seems to have a lot in common with Kuroha in that, it relates a lot back to Kuroneko, and a lot of the things she says are parallels to that child that, Ryota thinks isn't Kuroha sitting right next to him and everything. And so it's just getting that much thicker as the plot continues. We're seeing sort of a strengthening of ties between these characters as well as a thickening of their relationships. It could go any which way, really, because Ryota is at the center, and he really wants to do what he can, the best he can, to try to preserve their lives and to try to be their savior in a sense. And there's this great moment where Kana actually does recognize that, the one you think would be the least to first say something good about Ryota, but she is the one who calls it into attention. Without him, we'd all be dead. Without what he has done, we wouldn't have the death suppressant pills we have. Even when they get the crushing blow that the scientist Kogoro has told Ryota that there's really little hope to get these done within 6 months' time at minimum, they're still holding out hope that something can be done, and they know that Ryota is chief among those who will help them in this effort. Now, the last thing I thought was very compelling was, of course, in the midst of talking about the lab and, this alien ruin and everything like that, Kuroha recalls someone who was dying and with their last breaths were telling her she was the only hope to save the world. And when the discussion is brought up about how there are stronger witches than this, AA class witch Kikako and everything like that, there are S classes and everything. It sounded kind of like the Chocobo training in Final Fantasy VII, where there's, A class, B class, S class is the top of the class and everything. But it's interesting to me that there's a witch that is uber strong, a full-on S class that could destroy the entire world. And as Kuroha is kind of mulling this over, she comes to that conclusion that something I'm going to be capable of is going to save this world. And so it's all hinging on Kuroha. It seems it's just that much more compelling and intriguing to me as we move onward. And yeah, I can't wait to see what happens next. So otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. I hope this video finds you well. I'll catch you all later. Peace.